His spindly fingers curled around the object like it might bite. A long, ugly thing made of blackened metal, cold to the touch. It stung against his skin. Even at rest, it seemed hostile. "This is one of theirs," Eeks muttered, lifting the weapon slightly, as if to confirm its shape, its weight, its threat. The smugglers nodded. Small creatures, squat and wrinkled, barely reaching his mid-thigh. One had eyes like spoiled milk. The other scratched endlessly at a patch of gray fuzz on his head. Eeks looked back to the weapon. It was rough, crude, primitive, like something that had been forged instead of formed. That should have been his first warning. Technology made to bruise and break, not to glide or glow. But warning was not something Eeks often listened to. His kind didn't need warnings. They were the warnings. "This is funny," he said aloud, letting a quiet snicker curl out of him. It was a strange sound, like something slipping free that shouldn't. "It's hilarious, actually." He dangled the gun in front of himself, examining how absurd it looked against his sleek, torpedo-like frame. It was too small, too simple, like holding a sharpened stick. He spun it in his hand. No power core, no focusing unit, no radiation dampeners or energy transfer coils, just metal. Rough, dirty, and very human. He looked down at the two aliens again. "Is it even an energy gun?" They exchanged a glance, annoyed. Their kind didn't enjoy standing still for long, much less dealing with drawn-out trades. Their ancestors had learned to keep moving, prey long before they became merchants. "It throws metal," one finally grumbled. Eeks paused. "What?" the other clarified, slower. "It throws metal." He repeated the phrase to himself, delighted. "It throws metal." It wasn't a question. It was a revelation, absurd enough to make him grin. He turned the weapon over again in his hands, running a finger along the barrel like a scientist inspecting a club. Advanced slingshots, glorified pebble throwers. This is what the galaxy fears. The smugglers stayed quiet, the shorter one drumming anxious fingers along his leg. "Oh dear," Eeks said, theatrical now, pacing in a slow circle. "Oh dear, oh dear. This simply won't do. We can't let them continue with such delusions. These humans, if they think this is power, what kind of creatures are they really?" He turned back to the smugglers, raising a brow. "Tell me, are they simple? These humans?" Another glance, another shrug. "Don't know," Eeks scoffed. "They must be." His voice dripped confidence. He wasn't just speaking to the smugglers. He was laying down scripture, as if every word would be carved into the skin of history. "I mean, look at this thing. It's barbaric. It's a joke." He lifted the gun again and mimed firing it, chuckling as if the act itself was too ridiculous to take seriously. Then, without warning, he dropped it. The weapon clattered to the floor, cold and hollow in its bounce. "Keep the trash." The smugglers shot to their feet, tiny fists clenched, their squat bodies trembling with fury. But they were too small, too low. If Eeks looked forward, he could forget they were even there. "You touch, you buy," the fuzz scratcher hissed. "Rare thing, rare thing." He didn't respond. His long, needle-like legs carried him away, each step planting into the dirt like a flag on conquered land. bastard. You touch, you know by. EGOT's all the same." The words followed him like sand in the wind. He didn't look back. Why would he? The smugglers were beneath him, literally, biologically, spiritually. Sheep barking at a lion's back. EGOTs. That was the name his kind had earned. The name others spat when they wanted to curse something with too much pride, too much ego. The EGOTs, conquerors, claimers, destroyers of the meek. Eeks didn't even remember the two creatures by the time he stepped into his ship. They were gone from his mind like dust blown off a polished boot, and he still chuckled as he returned to orbit, recalling the absurd little thing that humans used as a weapon. A metal stick that spat death. How quaint. How telling. He could already feel the gears of destiny grinding beneath his feet, could feel the path clearing before him. They were not ready. And that was exactly the point. The command chamber pulsed with reverent silence. Before the expansive one, Eeks stood tall, rigid with pride, head bowed just enough to show respect, though never humility. Her crown shimmered like molten silver, rounded smooth across her oval skull, understated in design yet immense in meaning. The very presence of it was meant to humble lesser beings. It never humbled Eeks. He believed himself kin to it. "Speak," she said plainly, her voice clear, devoid of any interest in theater. Eeks straightened. "Then simple I shall be, O expansive one." A small flick of her hand permitted it. He made a show of stepping forward, arms sweeping wide like banners. "Pray to be slaughtered, Estain, for I bring you news of humanity." Around them, the amphitheater remained still. Only those chosen by the royal caste were permitted to witness war council. They stood tall and slender, unmoving shadows against the curved glass of the comet dome that served as both stage and sanctum. Through the transparent shield above, the blue star roared quietly, its light washing the interior in a soft, holy glow. The expansive one lifted a single brow. "What of their fabled wrath?" Eeks smirked. "You would not fear a pebble cast from a bow of string, my queen. These humans, they have only forged their string from steel. Their stories are illusions, fairy tales meant to shield truth." He waited for a challenge. None came. Inside, Eeks swelled. It was not just pride, it was momentum. He had taken the first step on the path, and he was already halfway down it. "They are prey," he continued, "creatures of dirt, meant only to be stomped. That is what I smelled when I stood among their artifacts. That is what I saw when I held their crude toy. They are a bluff, a mistake we have long avoided correcting." The expansive one nodded. That nod was everything. It was permission, command, prophecy. In its slight motion was the power to ignite fleets, to end civilizations. The chamber, still as death, suddenly vibrated with unspoken applause, the kind that only EGOTs could deliver without moving a muscle. War was decided. The knives of conquest unfurled from their resting positions and soared toward Earth. Silver daggers cutting across the stars, engines silent and focused. They swallowed the horizon, their hulls consuming sunlight, casting long shadows across continents. To some below, they looked like gods. To others, a promise. To Eeks, they looked like inevitability. Hovering above Earth in the captain's chamber of his own flagship, Eeks spoke with a voice greater than any he had ever used. "Hold position," he said. "I wish to speak with them first." He wanted to taste it, the last moments of a species, a proper appetizer before the feast. A small platform detached from the belly of the ship, descending smoothly toward the sand-covered flatlands below. It carried Eeks and 4 others, bodyguards, though he rarely needed them. Beneath them waited 3 humans, motionless in the wind, standing beside a short metal crate and looking like props in a play. The landing was gentle, barely a breeze. As the steps extended, Eeks walked with his chin high, hands clasped behind his back, every motion calculated to display dominance. The wind stirred his long limbs, his polished armor, but not his pride. He studied the humans, dirty, middle-aged, wrapped in mismatched combat uniforms, expressions neutral. The one in the middle, darker-skinned and broader than the others, suddenly lifted a hand, a command to stop. Eeks paused, surprised by his own obedience. The man raised one boot onto the crate, reached into his vest, and pulled out a tightly rolled cigar. With practiced ease, he struck a match and lit it, shielding the flame with his hand. The motion was smooth, unhurried, careless. He puffed, then looked up, high up, to meet Eeks's eyes. The other 2 didn't even bother acknowledging him. "What is this?" Eeks said sharply. "What is this little show?" The man took a drag before answering. "Name's James." Eeks blinked, caught off guard by the abruptness. Before he could respond, one of the other humans spoke. "Your turn now." Eeks bristled. "I know what an introduction is." He dusted his hands, visibly annoyed. "Must we really waste time on such?" James interrupted, shrugging. "Suppose not." Eeks struggled to keep his composure. He had come for surrender, a ceremony, a moment to witness the fear he'd earned. But they offered nothing. Not fear, not awe, just apathy. "You must understand your situation by now," he said, trying to redirect. "We have studied your weaponry, your planet, your—" "Wait," James said, suddenly animated. His eyes lit up. "You wouldn't have happened to see one of these, would you?" He reached behind the crate and lifted an AK-47, grinning like a child holding a sparkler. Eeks froze. "Yes," he admitted, confused. James slapped his knee. "Jenkins, told you those little bastards were selling our stuff." Jenkins, the man on the left, shrugged. "Didn't think they were gonna sell it. Thought they were gonna eat it." James waved the comment off. "Sorry, buddy," he said to Eeks. "You were getting on about conquering us and all." "Yes," Eeks snapped, flustered. "Yes, I was." James leaned forward, elbows on his knee. "Trying to, were you?" Eeks straightened, fury rising in his chest. "We do not try. We are egots. We do. We conquer. We claim." James nodded slowly, as if trying to remember something. "Yeah, not really how we do things around here, buddy. Got a bad history with Boeing." "You don't worship something grand?" Eeks asked, genuinely confused. James's gaze sharpened. His voice dropped into something heavier, something too big for the body it came from. "Oh, we worship something all right." Eeks tilted his head. "Yes?" "Passion," James said. The word hit like a whip crack. It echoed, not across the desert, but inside Eek's mind. He didn't know why. It wasn't supposed to mean anything, yet it felt like a seed dropped into a place that shouldn't grow things. He shook it off. "You realize," he said, trying to regain control, "that we are here to eliminate you all." "Yep," James replied. "Figured as much. Even Jenkins got that one." "Damn right," Jenkins said. "I only speak with you to see the realization in your eyes," Eeks spat. James stood suddenly, stretching his back. "Well, good chat." He turned away, casual as ever. "Y'all just let us know when this shindig kicks off." Eeks stared, stunned. "Let you know?" The three walked off, vanishing into the haze like nothing had happened, like they hadn't just been handed death. "This is your last moment," Eeks shouted after them, voice cracking under the pressure of disbelief. "Let it be known, what happens next will be tragic. It will be us who did it." James's voice floated back, muffled by the wind. "All right, buddy, all right." Boiling, Eeks stormed back to the transport. "They will pay," he hissed, bile rising with each syllable. "Ignorant beasts, insolent things." When he burst into the command chamber, the walls themselves seemed to flinch. "Send it all," he bellowed. "Land cruisers, soldiers, bombers. I want the planet glassed. Kill everything." And with that, the war machine stirred. The silver daggers of the egots began to descend in full. Eeks watched, blood hot and pulse high, as Earth prepared to meet its end. What a holy day it would be. He never once noticed that no one on the ground seemed to be running. The sky was not darkened, it was devoured. The EGOT fleet tore through the heavens like jagged knives, dragging shadows over oceans, mountains, deserts, every corner of Earth. Light vanished beneath their vast hulls, and in their wake, silence. No sirens, no panic, just stillness too quiet for the scale of what was coming. They had expected resistance, alarms, screams, and yet they found nothing. Nothing but empty cities and deserted towers, the skeletons of civilization left standing like bait. Eeks stood above it all, high in the command platform, surrounded by instruments and screens. His breath was steady, his voice poised. "Where are they?" he asked, more to the room than to anyone in it. No one answered. The invasion had begun hours ago. Thousands of sleek troop carriers touched down on Earth's crust like falling spears. Ground units had rolled forward with surgical confidence. Energy beams split stone, shredded walls, vaporized buildings. Lasers rained from above like divine punishment, and yet nothing. Not a single human body. Not a single shout of defiance. Then something caught his eye. A shimmer in the brush. 200 yards ahead of the advancing line, tucked into the tree line, the sunlight struck something metallic. Eeks leaned forward, tightening the feed on the platform's high zoom lens. There, barely visible, a man crouched behind thick vegetation. A human, weapon in hand, one of those metal slingshots. "Is that an AK?" Eeks muttered. The weapon flared to life. The shot cracked through the air, raw, sharp, explosive. Eeks flinched at the sound, then another, then hundreds more. From every tree, every bush, every inch of green. The ambush erupted like lightning across the land. They had waited, and now they answered. The egots were not ready. They weren't meant for this kind of war. Their weapons were perfect, silent, clean, lethal with elegance. Death without mess. But this was chaos. This was noise. The first egot soldier to fall didn't just drop. He exploded. His leg flew 10 meters to the left, his chest cavity split open like rotten fruit, splattering those behind him in blood and panic. The others stopped. They stared. The physics didn't make sense. How could a weapon tear like this? Another volley. Another squad shredded. Limbs, dirt, smoke screaming. The air went thick with heat and iron. It wasn't just noise anymore. It was something deeper, something feral. Not war. Rage. Eeks watched, frozen. This isn't supposed to happen. His lips barely moved, but the tremble in his voice was real. On the ground, the humans surged forward. Their lines didn't march. They charged, screaming, burning, laughing. The soldiers who should have been afraid were smiling as they fired. Bloodied, filthy, terrifying. They didn't retreat. They didn't break. They howled. Eeks saw a missile tear through one of their great ships, a knife-blade-class cruiser, miles long, reduced to a twisting inferno. It screamed as it fell. He stumbled back, grabbing the rail of his platform for balance. The camera feeds flashed red, every channel, every front. Casualties beyond logic. He slammed his hand on the console. Where are they coming from? No one could answer. He could only watch. The egots, so perfect in design, faltered under weight they were never built to carry. Their death was inelegant, and that made it all worse. Their systems didn't comprehend it. They panicked. And the humans, the more they lost, the harder they struck. The bloodier they became, the louder they roared. Eeks saw one man charging forward with his arm barely hanging on, wrapped in a belt, still firing with the other. Another dragged his friend behind a mound of dirt, only to leap back out, screaming with a grenade belt in his mouth. This is madness, Eeks whispered. His calm crackled. What is happening there? Came the voice of the expansive one. We are receiving loss reports across every vector. He tried to speak. His tongue felt thick, dry. He turned and saw it. Another blast, another egot vessel crashing, fire curling along its hull. Her voice came again, sharper. Eeks, report. He answered slowly, the words breaking from him like splinters. Their weapons. Silence, then. Yes? They are simple, he said. Exactly as we thought, but what? He looked to the horizon. He saw 3 humans sprinting through the fire, rifles barking, faces contorted not in fear, but fury. Pure, uncut fury. The muzzle flashes strobed their expressions like war gods painted in gunpowder. It's not their weapons that make them dangerous, he muttered. It's not the guns. It's not the bombs. Then what? He closed his eyes, trembling. It's the passion. Static. Then panic. Repeat that. What did you... But the channel cut. The last thing the expansive one heard was the echo of a scream and the deep, thunderous growl of an explosion, swallowing everything whole. And then, nothing. Eeks was gone. The fleet, broken. The egots, ruined. Those who survived never returned to Earth. Never spoke of the battle. Not directly. not with detail. It became legend, then warning, then doctrine. When asked about humanity, the egots would shake their long heads and say, "It's not the slingshots, it's not the steel, it's the fire that waits, the fire that screams back,